Good morning. It is November the 24th, Saturday of 2018. I wanted to do a brief little introduction. I'm going to clean the kitchen later, and then I'll do a cooking video for you guys. But we're gonna, sort of go over some basic religious theory of God in I'm gonna see if I can do this in less than 2 minutes. Okay. So welcome all. Later, if this turns out well, I will upload this to my Wake Up America channel. So I don't know if I know how to flip the camera around, so I may have to just turn the whole thing. Sorry about that if it happens. All right, here goes. I'm going to point this at the cookies, okay? Now, my counter's not perfectly clean right now, but I'm pretty sure, let me see, I'm going to look in the thing. Yeah, you can see the cookies, right? All right. So, imagine that this white plate is really black, and that there's just, for 1 second, there's no cookies on it. So just the space that takes up the white plate with the 4 cookies is a black, say, circle for now, okay? And that black circle is sort of like at the center or the eye or the nucleus of a single-celled organism. And in that black center, there's a type of light that we can't even conceive of with our human eyes, and a type of matter that is so dense and yet so intricate and so silky and so fine down to the most minuscule dot. The tiniest speck in it contains the infinite. Now, at the center of this, you might call it the eye or the center, the nucleus of God, right? As you back out, right, so you come away from it and you begin to look at it from Earth. We look at it a little differently. And so I'm going to use these 4 cookies on the plate to explain it, because we have 4 seasons on Earth, right? 4 elements, 4 directions, right? North, south, east, west. If you want, I could turn it like this for a minute. We have earth, air, fire, water, right? We have 4 seasons. The day is actually divided up into 4 different divisions. Astrological signs are as well. Everything's in 4. Even God's Spirit comes in 4s. And here's the interesting thing about it. When you're thinking about God and you're thinking about eternity, and it talks about the prophets, and that the prophets, shaman, people who truly, who see into that realm. And remember, bad guys were called prophets in the Bible too. They could see into that realm. That most of them would see into the mirror of prophecy, not just 1 mirror. They would see like 9 mirrors, right? Sometimes maybe you even see just the 4, right? And so Moses, though, could actually talk to the great deep unknowing, the big black that I was talking about, straight to the I am, which is really mind-blowing. All the other things that we think about God, they're in there. They're projected out. It's an amazing concept. But as we look at this, I want you to see a few things. Here's the 4, like on the earth, and like the 4 seasons. We're going to kind of try to line their little cookie heads up a little better, which might take 2 hands. Dang it. Oh, come on, guys. Give me a break here, please. I was on a walk. Well, I stopped in because I have to check on some things, and then I was like, well, I wanted to do this, so here we go. Hold on, I may have to set let me set the camera down for 1 second. I don't know if you can see me. Yeah, I know the camera's crooked, but we're going to deal with it. Okay, I'm just going to hold it with my fingers because earlier the cookies were listening to me and right now they're kind of just sliding around the plate. And hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Shoot. Oops, sorry. Okay, so in the midst of the cookies, well, we're just going to make do. No, I'm going to turn it around. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Hold on. Alright. From here on out, this video should go pretty quickly. Well, I have to just go like this anyway. Okay, come on over here. Yes, okay, so we got one more cookie to go. If all goes well, you could see some herb in these cookies. These are anti-inflammatory gingerbread cookies that have marijuana in them. I like to ward off the old Alzheimer's on a regular basis, so I make them, and I eat them on the Saturday here. Okay, did you guys see the 4 cookies on the circle? Like the 4 seasons, the 4 spirits of God, the 4 winds, right? What shape do you see there in the center? Does that look like a cross? Ah. It does look like a cross. Oops, sorry, I'm not holding the camera right. That's a good thing I checked. You see that? Okay, so we're going to back it up. There we go. It's a cross, right? Point here is that I gotta switch hands. Looks like a Huguenot cross, too, if you want to get technical about it. Which the Catholics killed them off. You know, I have Huguenot in my family. An interesting story. Alright. At any rate, you see that shape, right? What people don't want to tell you is that this shape is important too. In American Indian culture, you look it up, you'll see the wheel with the 4 colors in the south and the north, right? And the east and the west, and how there's like a cross in the center, right? Catholics use the cross, Jesus on the cross, the original Tav. Oh, the symbol for Dan was a cross, which is a Tav, right? If I'm not mistaken, the original old version of it. So here's the dealio with that. It's like the 4 gates to the Temple of Jerusalem. Now, coincidentally, the Prince Messiah will come in through the East Gate. The one that some sort of Hama Harami, I don't know what his name was. I want to say a Harambe, one of those fancy names that belongs with someone who I would think would live in a place like the Taj Mahal, okay? So he had that kind of like sealed up. But the point is, it's also the woman's gate. Solomon dubbed it so. You ever notice there's also, I've pointed this out in other videos of mine with Esther and King David, who was ruddy, that was the youngest of the boys. For a fact, biologically, genetically speaking, you have this stuff called non-coding DNA, which pretty much makes up almost all of what you are, 90% of your DNA. And it's changed by the environment that you gestate in. King David was the last son, and he had the least testosterone of all the boys. That is why the prophet did not suspect him. There is something to the woman's gate, because it takes a woman, takes a man, okay, who can be humble enough to be enclosed in the feminine essence of God, for one, and that the feminine essence of God would want to enclose. So that's a really, that takes it's an interesting thing. It's kind of like it's hard to explain, but it's like a yin yang going on for eternity. A man inside a woman, inside a man, inside a woman, inside a man, inside a woman, inside a man, inside a woman. In a spiral, right? Kind of with like a still center. If the spiral would be like the yin yang symbol if it just kept going. But into like dimension. And there's something at the center. And it's like a black hole, but it's not, guys. It has dark matter. And it's something that the closest thing I've seen talked about scientifically, you could look it up, is called the dark star, right? That is the nucleus. I have visions that are scientific, not, people who have visions are like, oh, they have these. No, I have something that's actually scientific. It's when you're sleeping, people have the sleep paralysis where they have visions when they're in the paralysis state. There's a scientific name for it. Can't remember it right now. And I've had it my entire life since I was a very little girl. I mean, I thought I saw the devil when I was like 5 years old, okay? that's in my bed. So I was in that in-between state, but I actually see things, and usually they're nice. They're not bad, very interesting. But that's what the woman who wrote Frankenstein, she had those as well. It's very common with people who just have a certain type of brain, that's all. And so, it just is what it is. Whatever. It doesn't really matter. The point is that the visions that I get, though, are most of them, like now I'm an adult, and when I do get them, they're more scientific, okay? And then I look them up, and usually there's always someone who's actually come up with this theory, whether it's become famous or not. A lot of times it has been acknowledged, but as having validity. But it's very interesting, and you could say they're spiritual, I guess, if you want. So, because they are. I mean, they are spiritual, but they're very scientific. So that's why the thing about life, when Moses understood about becoming the most tiniest dot, right? Because where do you think God has room for you? Do you think he has room for you, for us, that he's like, here, let me make a brand new place in the heavenlies for you, and you don't build anything for me down there on earth, okay? We're just going to make it. No, when he makes room for you, he says, okay, so now I'm giving you some time and space to do something here on earth, because I want to come into this realm, right? And there's room here, but it's on the infinitely small level, right? It's in the details. They say the devil's in the details. It's in the details. So Moses understood that the place where there's space left is on the intricate level. Down here on earth, we need to fill in the intricate small, the tiny things, right? And that's how we get a piece of God inside of us, is we get this little tiny piece of what some people would call a black hole. It's a little bit more like a black star. You get one speck because you filled in a tiny little dot. And in order to fill in that tiny little dot, you have to understand how tiny. To reflect this infinite, you have to go down to the tiniest little thing you could imagine, right? So that's just the story there. But so in here you can see the cross, right? So the whole significance of coming in by the eastern gate, which from here would be here, the eastern gate. Okay, so if we were looking down at it from above, aerially, eastern gate here. This is not an exact, obviously, but we're just going to go with it anyway. West. Yep. North and south. Okay, so like the Indian cross, it's all the same thing. But the thing is that God has these divisions, and you might even think of 1/4 of these divisions as being the Satan. The guy we call the Satan, he's a part of God's personality. And this is the reason why, okay? So when you come in towards God from the eastern gate, you're coming in. But what else comes in by the eastern gate? By golly, it's the sun. What does the sun do? The sun is merciful and gracious and gives its warmth and its life to all the creatures that it comes across. In Psalms, it says it's like a bridegroom in a chariot that actually is looking forward to running its course and dutifully does it every single day with great enthusiasm, right? That's why some people got confused and worshipped the sun. It's not understanding that the sun is a reflection. But the reflection, if you think the sun is a reflection of God's glory, if you think about that, God's glory must be so humongous, it would just crisp us, like, we'd be little crispy critters, instantly, practically. So, most of us, it would just, most things wouldn't survive right now, okay? So just imagine, like, how intense that would be. Our planet can't barely stand, like, when there's little solar flares. So, but we know that the sun is a restrained reflection, a diminished reflection of God, of what God is. The sun comes up on the east and it gives to all, the wicked and the just and the unjust alike, and says, I'm here for you all, right? Comes in by the east gate. That's what mothers do. That's what they're supposed to do. The job of the mother, right, when a nursing mother, is to just give the mercy, the pure milk of mercy and the love. Come in by the east gate. And that's what King David understood. And it took the youngest boy who had diminished testosterone for his brain to understand it. He was a precious, precious soul, but genetic things have to go on and chemical things have to go on for these things to take place as well. Sorry if the camera's shaking. I'm holding it up by my one arm. So the point here, guys, is that you could see all of the world's religions here. Imagine the yin yang. That's the one up here and one up here. That's just if you join these two, you join these two. Hemispheres of the brain, the right and the left from above, right? You could see pretty much every pattern. Do you know that you can draw the entire Hebrew alphabet inside of one of these puppies? It is just fascinating. I've been working on this. It's very interesting. But the yin-yangs, the whole, it's just an interesting study. But what I'm finding is that all the world's religions, clearly, which I knew this already, but every time I discover it, it's more amazing than the time before. Because it astounds me. You know, it's like, how could it? Was. So, God's left his fingerprint in everything. I believe the Jews hold the key. Key is there for a reason. And the lock's there for a reason, because when people, what do you think happens when people see this cross, right? Like many of the world's secret illuminated religions, you know, the people who misuse this power, they come in from another direction, right? So instead of riding in from the east gate, they're like, let me come in from the north, right? And when that happens, it's when you come in this way, God stays one. You come in, you recognize there's different parts to God, but God is unified, right? Then you can access God's judgment and both his judgment and his mercy, because you came in by the east gate. But when you, God forbid, come in by the wrong gate, you give God a split personality like the hemispheres, like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Destruction happens. This is what happened in Egypt. They tried to take the holy feminine presence of God and shackle her down because they knew certain things. You ever notice the Egyptians weren't big child molesters on their pictures? It was against the law to have child porn. Women in childbirth were given a ton of goddesses. They had to make allowances for the feminine presence, and that's why they had it there for so long. That's why the teachings there are the same as in Judaism. This is the nutshell. You ever notice how, like, during the time of Rome or Greece, how maybe the oracles of Delphi were in a different spot, and all the things that it described happening there, gases and the earth and all this, and it happens in other places on the earth. But now they can't find the gases. They don't come up there anymore. They don't know if they ever did, but they assume they did because too many people record it. You know, at one point Atlantis was a hubbub. It's because right now our North Pole is sort of unstable. Our magnetic pole goes around like this, and the holy spots of Earth, the navel of the Earth, move. In this time, right now, it is in Jerusalem. That's why we have the world's powers over there vying for that land, for that piece of power, because you have to tuck all those regions in your pocket before you control it. Not just the little honeypot in the center. You got to get all the surrounding regions. That's how Rome controlled the world. They had theirs. Every place has had theirs, right? So the other thing is that people overlook something very simple, which is projection. The way that we think about something does change it. When you have enough people meditating on one thing at once, it projects it. One of the keys that the Egyptian, what do you want to call it, the wizards understood, was that by making these sacrifices and appeasing the feminine presence of God, because God is both feminine and masculine, left and right, God is the whole tamale, not just a piece. That's why it's wrong to worship Jesus, because you're saying here, one part of God is the whole God. No. Or I'm just only going to pray to the Holy Spirit. No. The Holy Spirit's different than just taking, kind of, but we're not going to go into that quite yet, because there's something to the Holy Presence being like a molecule in your body and in your spirit, that once you are operating in that, you cannot be destroyed anymore, because it can't be destroyed. So that's a whole other topic for another day. But the point here is you just don't take like one. The point of coming in by the Eastern Gate is you keep God unified, centered. And so the Satan doesn't break off as a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde and come around from the backside and get you, bam, because you came in the wrong way, right? That's what happens. It's like going into Egyptian tomb. You came in, you weren't supposed to, the curse comes upon you. Bad guy comes and you just gave him permission because it was written right there. Full disclosure. That's why we don't, that's why there's a special place in hell for those who have learned to rape and shackle God's feminine presence. Right? It's real bad. It's a bad thing. And so, anyways, for today, I'm just going to suffice it to say that you can find the key, even to what they're talking about in the Sorcerer's Stone, about putting the man and the woman in the circle of this in the center of the circle. That's a yin yang, and then you would have to draw out the right configurations, and that's why the Jews have that key, because they know how to treat that. They will not. I repeat, the whole point of their religion is that they will not violate God's feminine presence no matter how excited they get. That's why God likes them real nice and mellow and not that excitable. So, at any rate, it's very interesting stuff. Oh, the projection is that when you have enough people that come over to being one God, being Jews, so to speak, that is partially what the word Jew means and why Hitler labeled all of them Jews. And all the girl Jews, Sarah, it was because he was saying that they only worship one God. Whole thing. Whole tamale. We don't say God doesn't have a dark side, that it doesn't rain, that judgment doesn't come. That's a lie. Of course it does. You know what? I love that about him. If you have only light and you have no dark, you never have a piece of art, because you need definition and you need detail and you need intricacy for true art, right? You take it away. God doesn't have those dark clouds around his legs coming all around him, surrounding him. What? He's not God anymore. That's not God you worship. He's the whole thing. He's the kindness and the judgment. All right. The yin, the yang, the whole tamale, guys. All right. The still in the center. That was my thing for today. And hopefully when I get my kitchen cleaned, it's a little, I got some dishes to wash around here, and I don't really want to be doing too much. So it might not be today, it might be tomorrow. And then maybe I'll show you guys how to bake bread. All right. Try it tomorrow, if I get to it. If not, it'll be next weekend. But I'll try it for tomorrow, if all goes well. See you guys later. Happy day. Over and out. Oh.